everyone. Myself Swati Bajpayee from Edinburgh Communications Private Limited. We are here for the next Aifset Life Fest. Today we are going to cover the topic role of fingerprints in crime scenes and investigations. And it's pleasure to introduce our today's speaker, Mr. Hemraj, Head and Assistants from Mary Matha College, Tamil Nadu, from Forensic Department. He is doing his research on in field of forensic fingerprints and use of AI for fingerprint analysis. Sir, over to you. Please start.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope I am audible. Okay, please present my first slide, ma'am. Yes, now it's fine. Am I audible clearly? Okay, I hope I am audible. First of all, good afternoon to everyone, and I welcome you in this online session on the role of fingerprint in crime scene investigation. So my name is Hemraj. I am working as Assistant Professor and Head Department of Forensic Science in Marymount College of Arts and Science in Tamil Nadu. Today I will be covering some basic concepts about fingerprint and their role of the role of fingerprints in crime scene. I hope you have heard about the fingerprint and that we are using the police is using the fingerprints for the to catch criminals in simple terms we say, and their role in the forensic science and other investigations. So the term fingerprint is very common, even the layman can understand. I need a confirmation from somebody if I am audible properly. I cannot see anyone.
Sir, you are audible. You can.
What are the fingerprints and how fingerprints are formed? The image that you're seeing on your screen is the layer of our skin. Fingerprints are present on our fingers of the hand as well as on the fingers and the toes of our feet. But the main fingerprints that we are using in the crime scene are the fingerprints of our hands. And the one of the reason that we are using fingerprint in forensic science is that the fingerprints are unique to every individual. No two fingers in the world have same fingerprint on them. Even your own fingers, all your 10 fingers in your hand have different fingerprints on them. So if you are touching any surface, then you are leaving your fingerprints there, and with the help of those fingerprints, you can be individually identified. So that is the reason that police and other criminal justice system people are using fingerprints, and one of the main evidence. So on your screen, you are right now seeing different layers of the skin. I am not going in details as I know that you people are not from forensic backgrounds. So the layer of skin, we have mainly three layers of the skin. The first layer is the epidermis and the dermis, the second layer. The fingerprints are present on the epidermis and some part of the fingerprint is present on the dermis as well. So fingerprints are also known as friction ridge. On our fingers, we have some small ridges. If you feel your fingerprint, you can touch your fingerprints here and you can see them that you have your fingerprints. And these ridges on your fingers here are known as the friction ridge because they help you grasp the thing. They they are there so that you can have friction in your hand and you can hold anything properly. So if I read from the presentation, it says a friction ridge is a raised portion of the epidermis on the palmar or plantar surface. Palmar surface means in our hand and plantar surface means in our feet. So we have fingerprints not only on fingers but in the entire palm area here. The entire palm area has the fingerprints. Even though we call them fingerprints, but there are palm prints also, and there are toe prints also. These ridges are also known as dermal ridge. Dermal means the skin, and they are the ridge on our skin, so that's why they are known as dermal skin. And why does the skin have the ridges? As I said before, that one of the main role of the fingerprint is not to individually identify the person, but it is to produce friction on the hand so that we can use hand properly and we can grasp and hold things very properly. Okay, sweat pores are another very important part of the fingerprint. When you zoom your fingerprint or your hand under a lens or probably a microscope, you will see that there are small pores. When you hold your hand like that for some time, you will see that your hand is sweating. So it produces sweat. So there are small pores, small glands in your hand, and those pores are present in your hand here in the fingerprints, and those pores secrete sweat as well as some oils. Those sweat that your sweat pore are secreting in your hand, that is the main source of the fingerprint. When I am touching something, for example, here is one this device is there in my hand. When I am touching this device here, when I am touching, what happens is that the sweat pore in my finger, they secrete the sweat, and that sweat will be deposited on this device. So now in this device there is my fingerprint, because my hand, my finger, and the pores present on my finger, they produce some sweat, and that sweat got deposited on this device. That results in the fingerprint. So we'll read some information from here. Friction ridges are dotted with pore opening. Pore means the opening of the sweat glands. We have glands in our hand. I hope everybody is a science student and they understand what are the pores, what are the glands. The sweat is largely made up of 98.5% of water. Then some organic acids are there, salts are there, minerals are there. That is the composition of our sweat. So all these composition of our sweat is equal to the composition of our fingerprint as well. When do we develop fingerprints? How are fingerprints formed? So if we discuss about the fingerprint, we have fingerprint even before we born. So when you see a very little child at the time of birth, immediately after birth, the child will be having the fingerprint. The fingerprints are formed inside the womb. When you, under the period of 9 months, your fingerprints are also developing. Right? Unlike hair, so we our hair does not develop in the womb. The person take birth, and after that only the hair grows slowly on different parts of the body. But fingerprints are produced inside the womb itself within the period of 9 months. So when an infant is born, it is born with the fingerprints. So there are some information here. Finger pad development. It is 1 and 3.5 inches in size, right? So different growth period is there. This is very technical detail. Probably I will not be going through this. It will be very boring for you. But one thing to understand here is that when we talk about the development of fingerprint, it is developed when you are in the womb. So inside the mother, the development of fingerprint happens. When we take birth with our fingerprint. Okay, the creation of ridges, and it is the time, then ridge patterns. What are ridges? What are ridge pattern? We'll be going through uh, the next slide we have, and through that we will be discussing all these fingerprints. Okay, now we discuss what is a fingerprint. They are the impression made by papillary ridges. So here one term is written, papillary ridges. So when you feel your fingerprint, there are some ridges, and these friction ridges, one scientific term for this friction ridges is the papillary ridge. On the end of the finger, and thumb as well. Fingerprints are an infallible. So infallible means you can not alter your fingerprints. So if let's suppose there is a cut in your hand, so after some time when the wound is healed, your fingerprint will restore as it is. So there is no way a person can change their fingerprint. Even with the surgeries, it is not possible. Many people have actually tried this, but that is not possible to change the fingerprint. So when there is any cut, any superficial cut, I would say, when only the superficial part of the skin that we say that the epidermis of the skin is damaged, in that case, the fingerprint will completely restore itself and it will be exactly the same pattern as it was before the injury. So that's why it is written that fingerprints are infallible. And this property of the fingerprint make it very, you can say, great evidence for any crime scene investigation. So because if I am present on the crime scene and my fingerprints are present on the crime scene, it and once my fingerprints are there with the law enforcement agencies, I cannot change my fingerprint. Even if I make a deep cut on my hand and whatever things I do, but still the fingerprint will restore when the wound will be restored. Unless I am cutting my hand or the entire finger, that is a different case. But if there is a superficial cut in the hand, the fingerprint will restore themselves after the wound is healed. So that's why the fingerprints are infallible. They can never go wrong, means they cannot be changed and they remain the same throughout the life of the person. If, even though the size can change, but the pattern on the fingerprint can never change. What are the different patterns in the fingerprints? We will be discussing in the upcoming slides. Fingerprints are infallible means of a personal identification because the ridge arrangement on every finger of every human being is unique and does not alter with growth or age. As I said, that no two fingers in the world can have same fingerprint. Even your own finger or different fingers have different fingerprints on them. Fingerprints reveal an individual's true identity despite personal denial. So let's suppose if I am saying on a crime scene my fingerprints are present and I say that I did not go to that crime scene. So it means I am lying, but my fingerprints there are telling the truth, right? Because those fingerprints are evidence that there is no other way that my fingerprints are there on the crime scene. Uh, Fingerprints reveal an individual's true identity despite personal denial, assume names, or change in personal appearance of an individual. So, with the problem with the personal appearance is that today I am looking in a certain way. Tomorrow my appearance might change. I might lose weight. I might gain weight. My hair might go. I might cut my hair, my beard. I might grow my beard. So I can change the way how I look, but I cannot change the fingerprint. So that makes the fingerprint very important piece of evidence at crime scene. So these days, if you go to daily life, you are using the fingerprints. If you are going to write some exam, they for personal verification they take your fingerprint. Even in your Aadhaar card, they use fingerprint. You can download your Aadhaar card. Even you can make bank transaction these days with the help of fingerprint, the digital fingerprint, I would say. So by matching it with your Aadhaar card. So in daily life also we are using fingerprints in lot of ways as Aadhaar card is associated with many services, government services as well as private services. So there we are making use of our fingerprints. So the one of the main reason is that they are unique to every individual. Okay, it is written here, the appearance of an individual can change from age or any disease. Plastic surgery can be done on our personal look, or if some accident happens, the look might change. But as I said, fingerprints will never change. The practice of utilizing fingerprint as mean of identification is referred to as dactyloscopy. So dactyloscopy is basically the study of fingerprints. This is the specialized study of fingerprint. Okay, in this slide, it was the introduction of the fingerprint. What is the fingerprint and why fingerprints are very important? They are important because they are unique and they cannot be changed throughout the life of the individual. Now, I have another slide here. There we will discuss what are the characteristics of fingerprint and how actually a fingerprint looks like and what makes it possible to identify a fingerprint. So what are the characteristics in a fingerprint? Both individual characteristics as well as class characteristics. So now I would like to request ma'am to please present my another slide. If ma'am is there, I'm not able to. Yes. Okay. So this is the another slide which talks about the characteristics and feature of fingerprints, and we will be discussing fingerprints in very much detail. Uh, Although it is very true that each fingerprint is different from another, yet it is also true that all fingerprints have common characteristics among themselves. So now, if we have to identify one individual, let's suppose all the human beings have some common characteristics and they have some individual characteristics also. Common characteristics is that everybody has two hands, two leg is there, two eyes, one nose, mouth is there, hair is there, head is there. So these are all common things that a human being has, right? They can individually they can differ. I have black hair, somebody might have gray hair. I have black eyes, somebody might have blue eyes also. The height might be different, but there are some common characteristics as well in all human beings. There will be body parts will be the same, right? Everybody has two eyes, one nose, mouth is there, right? Two hand is there, the fingers are there. These are some common characteristics that every object has. Every object of the same class will be having some common characteristics, but they will be having some individual characteristics also. So with the help of these class characteristics and individual characteristics, we can match two things. So now, if we have to identify, let's suppose there is a photo and there is myself standing. Now you have to identify that if that photo belongs to me or it does not. If it is my photo or it is not. The first thing you will verify is the class characteristics. First, you see that if that photo is of a human being or not. If I show you a photo of an animal and say that is it my photo, you can immediately say no, it is not because it is animal. The class characteristic itself was not matching. A human being has two legs, but in the photo it has four legs. So it's a class characteristic. So it cannot be you because it is not a human being, right? But if I see, if I give you a photo of a human being and then ask you, you can say that yes, it is a human being. So there is a chance that it can be you. Then you will be going for individual characteristics. Then you will see what is the height of the person, what is the skin color of the person, that what is the hair color of the person, what is the general feature, facial feature of the person. Then finally you will come to conclusion that it is my photo or it is not. Same thing happens here also in fingerprint. We have two type of characteristics. One is the class characteristics and another one is the individual characteristics. So we have some different types of fingerprints that is class characteristics. Let's suppose there are four types of fingerprints. All those four types of fingerprints will have something in common, right? So the common characteristics is pattern area, what type of pattern it is that we will be discussing in detail in coming slides. Then type lines, what type of line it is, from which place the line are entering, from which place of the fingerprint lines are exiting. Then one delta is there when different ridges met, and then there is a core. So we'll be discussing these points in the upcoming slides. Okay, first is the pattern area. It is the part of the loop or whirl in which the core, delta, and ridge appear. which helps in the classification of pattern. There are a lot of technical detail written here, which you should not be concerned about. But if we say the pattern area, it is simple, the visual representation of the fingerprint. That is the pattern area. If you put your fingerprint on a paper with any sort of ink, black ink, let's suppose, that you should see that the overall pattern looks the same or it looks different, right? So that is known as the pattern area, overall look of the print, you can say, right? There is some technical details also is there, part of a loop, wall, core, deltas, right? These are part of the fingerprint. Inside the fingerprint, some parts are available. They are known as some core and deltas. If you see these two photos here, see, one A, B, C, some points are there. This is one line. This one line is entering into the fingerprint, making a curve and exiting, right? Then another ridge is entering and it is exiting in a certain way. It is making some sort of pattern, right? And by looking at this pattern, this is a general pattern of this fingerprint. These two have same pattern, right? Because in the same manner, ridges are entering from one side, making a curve and exit from the other side. So this is a pattern area. One sort of pattern is there. It is present in all pattern, but arch is infallible. Arch is a type of fingerprint that we'll be discussing here. Now, the second thing is type lines. Type lines. When we say lines, is these lines. When you look fingerprint, or if you have seen fingerprint somewhere, they have small lines in between, like that, right? So these lines have some sort of characteristics in them. How these lines are meeting with each other, how, where they are crossing each other, like that. These are some individual characteristics. These are the ridges that determine the pattern area of the loop and word. Arches lack presence of pipeline. They are basically outline of the main pattern area and some technical details are plus. In the last, it is written, they can be defined as two innermost ridges which start parallel and diverge the around. So these are line basically which is surrounding the main pattern area of the fingerprint. A lot of technical detail is there. You need not to bother about it. Then there were two more things. One is the delta and one is the core. Delta is basically here when you point this one, when two, three ridges meet together. Right? What is a delta? In general, the English meaning of delta is that it is an area between the rivers. When two rivers meet, it is the area in between the two rivers. Right? So there is a triangular shape there in the fingerprint where two ridges meet each other, right? When they are running parallel and suddenly they meet, that triangular area is known as the delta. So here one little triangular area is there, that is known as the delta. And this is the core. Core means the midpoint of the fingerprint. So there will be one ridge at the center of the print, that will be the core, right? So there are some technical details written about the delta and about the core. The Greek letter is triangular in shape, delta. So those who are studying science, they know what delta is. In one triangular shape, we represent delta. It's a Greek letter, we can say. And therefore, fingerprint studies delta tri-radius is formed when a ridge bifurcate. Bifurcate means one ridge is dividing into two. That is known as bifurcation, causing an inner space where the pattern lies. Basically, when different lines are meeting in such a way that they are making a triangle. So that triangle is known as delta. Okay, when we start ridge counting and all that, I'm not going through ridge counting and very much technical detail. Then core is, as I said, it is the very much central point of the our fingerprint, defined as the central point. Type of core varies according to the type of pattern. So there are different types of patterns. It delta depends on that. Just a minute. Okay. Now, this is the main part of this slide is the fingerprint classification. When we were discussing of pipelines, delta and all, now we will be discussing what types of fingerprints are there. So when we are discussing types of fingerprint, it will be clear what are the deltas and these lines. Okay, mainly if we talk about the name, arch, loop, whirl, and composite. These four type of fingerprints are there. These are classes of fingerprints. One is arch, loop, and there can be two type of loop, radial loop and parallel loop. Arch can be of two types, plain arch and tented arch. Then whirl and then composite can be central pocket loop, double loop, twin loop, lateral pocket. All these are types of fingerprint. They have some common characteristics. For example, arch have some common characteristics, right? Plain arch and tented arch will be having some common characteristics, but plain arch and tented arch will be having some different characteristics as well, right? This is how class and individual characteristics will look like. By looking at the pattern area or overall look of the print, we'll be able to understand which type of fingerprint it is. If it is an arch, if it is a loop, whirl, and composite. See, when we are talking about forensic science, mainly forensic science has the role of comparison. You will always have two things and you have to compare those two things. And then you have to give a report if those two things are same or it is not same. Not only in fingerprint, but other areas of the forensic science also has this role only. Mainly our role is to identify if two objects or two things are similar or they are not. In case of fingerprint, also the role is same. You will be given two fingerprints and you will be asked if these two fingerprints are same or they are not same. This is the only answer you have to give to the police or anybody who is approaching you. Now you have one fingerprint that is known as a known fingerprint. So what happens is police find a fingerprint in the crime scene. Then they will find some people that are their suspect. They think that these people might be involved in the crime, so they will take their fingerprints. Now they will match. They will send all these fingerprints, the one that they got from the crime scene and the one that they got from the people. So now the one that they got from the people, they already know that these fingerprints belong to this person, but they don't know if the fingerprint on the crime scene belongs to these people or not. So what will they do is they will send all these fingerprints to the forensic lab, and the forensic people will match that one fingerprint that they got from the crime scene with all the fingerprints of these people. So then they will find out, yes, this fingerprint belong to this person or it does not belong to any of the person. So if we talk about that comparison part, first we will see the pattern of the fingerprint. Now let's consider a scenario. In the fingerprint that we got from the crime scene, we have one type of fingerprint that is known as arch fingerprint, let's suppose. But all the other fingerprints that we got from these people, nobody has an arch. So we no need to compare the print because the overall type of pattern is very much different. And no person in this fingerprint has that type of fingerprint. So we can securely say that no, this print does not belong to any of these people because overall pattern itself is different, right? So this is how we match fingerprint. Step by step, we are matching the fingerprints. Then let's suppose there are 20 fingerprints that we got from different suspects, and there is one fingerprint we got from crime scene. So from the crime scene fingerprint, we found out that it is an arch. And from these 20 prints, we got only two arcs. So what we have to do, we don't need to match this fingerprint with all the 20 fingerprints. We have to match with only those two arcs, right? So this is how we use class characteristics to distinguish different types of fingerprint. Then in the arch is also which type of arch it is. It is a plain arch, it is tented arch, loop, whorls, and composite. Same goes with all of this. What are the different characteristics of these? We will be discussing in next slides. Okay, now here the percent of occurrence of population if I discuss. Arch, only 5% people have arch. Loops, mainly loops will be there, 60 to 65%. So if I tell you to put your print there on the paper and check, I can safely say that all of you will be having at least two loop fingerprint in your fingers. Everybody will be having at least two loops out of their 10 fingerprints because loops are very frequent and they are very common. So loop is the most common pattern found in almost everybody. Then there are whorls and composite, lesser composite, 1 to 2% only will be having composite. Main are loops and whorls. So how do they look and how they are in appearance, we will be discussing that. Okay, first let's see arches. If I have a photo of the arch here, there are two arches. One is plain arch, one is tented arch. So what is the meaning of arches? When we see about these patterns in the print, you see that the ridges are entering from one side, making a slight curve and exit from the other side. Right? All the ridges are this. These are placed one above the other. Right? They are entering from one side, let's say the left side, and they are exiting from the right side, making a slight curve. This is known as a plain arch. And there will not be any triangular shape, means there is no delta, even there is no core part, there is no core also, there is no center point is also not there. So this is known as plain arch. Then this is tented arch. So see, the class characteristic is that in this tented arch also all the lines are entering from the left side and exiting from the right side, right, all the lines. So this is the same characteristics, that the line will enter from the left side and exit from the right side. What is the individual characteristics in this is that in plain arch, they are not making any tent, right? You see, they are going slightly up and making a tent-like shape. Like this is how a tent look like, right? They are making a tented shape. That's why it is known as a tented arch. And this is known as a plain arch. The common characteristic is that in the arch will be, we can define arch that the line will enter from one side and exit to the other side, right? This is the common characteristics in both. So this is known as an arch. But plain arch, there will not be any tented formation, but tented arch has a tented formation. If we see about the definition of the arches, they are, they are characterized by single elevation in the ridges which enter on one side of the print and exit on the opposite side. So this is the main characteristic. Enter from one side, exit from the other side. This is known as arch. Two types of arch is there, plain arch and tented arch. And we have just seen the difference between plain arch and the tented arch. They don't have any delta formation because delta is formed when two ridges met with each other. Well, they are running parallel and they meet. So they don't have delta. Then if we talk about loop here, this is a loop pattern. Now see, this pattern will be very much different from the one that we have seen previously. In this, ridge is entering from one side and then making a curve around the center point. This is the center point. Then ridge is entering from the left side, let's suppose, then making a curve around the center point and it is exiting from the same side, right? Like if you see tented arch, see here it is entering from one side, exiting from the other side. But here it is entering from one side and exiting from the same side. Here this radial loop, right? Ulnar loop also, it is entering from this right side and exit also from the right side. These patterns. And there is one delta also. When we are talking about delta, see, this is the delta. This is the triangular shape near to the tip, right? So here the ridges are making at least one curve around the central part. One curve around the central part. So this is known as the loop. There are two loop, radial loop and ulnar loop. So if we talk about radial loop, the radius bone, there are two bones in our hand, radius and ulnar. If the opening is toward ulnar bone, so this is the opening of the tooth. So this is the opening here. In this radial loop, the opening is this side. Ulnar loop, opening is this side. I hope my cursor is also visible to you. I'm pointing out with the cursor, so I think I'm not sure if it is visible to you or not, right? But you can see in the print that there is opening of the print to one side. If the opening is toward radial bone of the hand, it is a radial loop, and if it is opening toward ulnar loop, ulnar bone of the hand, this is known as ulnar loop. There are two bones in our forearm, radial and ulnar. So the opening of the loop decide whether it is a ulnar loop or it is a radial loop. Okay. To decide whether a loop is ulnar or radial, it is necessary to know the hand, if it is left hand or right hand, because from left hand to right hand, the position of the ulnar bone or the radial bone, it differs. We talk about whorls. So see here is the whorl. Whorl are basically some circular pattern. So they are making circle. So if you see the overall pattern of this fingerprint, you see that there is some sort of circle. So if the circle pattern is there, they are whorl patterns, right? A plane of two whorl is characterized by a circular pattern having one or more ridges resolving around the core, making a complete circle. Then whorl has two deltas, one whorl delta it is here, one delta it is here, right? But if we talk about the loop has only one delta. It has only one delta. But whorl has two deltas, one right side and one is on left side. It is also has at least one ridge making complete circle, which may be spiral, oval, or circular, or any other forms of a circle as well. So basically, the point is that whorl loop have circles. Okay, at least one circle will be there. If there is a circle, it is a whorl loop. When an imaginary line is drawn between two deltas oval pattern, they will touch the core at least one of the receiving ridge in a pattern area. Some technical detail to identify the wall, but if you are matching with these two deltas, it will cut this circular pattern. This is what it says. These are some technical details that we use to identify the wall pattern. There are some more characteristics which for this presentation is not that useful for you people, as when you will be going to study forensic science, if you are interested in forensic science, at that time you will be going through these detail in very much detail and in depth, how fingerprints are formed, how they can be analyzed. Then in the crime scene, if you talk about the crime scene, there can be there are some other type of fingerprint, composite, and these accidental loop. So I'm not going through these all the characteristics. Okay. So before going to individual characteristic of a fingerprint, I would say that in the crime scene we will not be getting a visible fingerprint. When you touch something, let's suppose there is nothing in my hand, no ink is there, nothing is there, and I am touching one. Let's suppose this paper in my hand. I am touching this paper. Here, my fingerprint is there, but it is not visible. So one of the role of forensic scientist is not only to match the fingerprint, but to make this fingerprint visible. To make the fingerprint visible, there are some methods. There are chemical methods also, and there are some powder method also. So with the help of some powder, we can put the powder on the fingerprint and the fingerprint will be visible. But there are some let's suppose this paper is there. On the paper, if I put some powder, the powder method will not work, but chemical method will work. I have to use some chemical to make the fingerprint visible, right? There are invisible fingerprint mostly found in the crime scene. Then how to make a fingerprint visible, that depends on what type of surface it is, and some other characteristics is also there that we have to go through. On the basis of those all the scenarios, we have to decide which method we have to use to make the fingerprint visible. Okay, there are some individual characteristics. Uh, the individual characteristics basically how the different ridges are crossing each other, what patterns they are making. Right, when you see a fingerprint under the microscope, you will find out that the ridges has pattern in this. There are some ridge ending is there, then island is there, bridge, dot, many are there. If you see any of the fingerprint here, let's suppose this fingerprint. So you can see there are ridges, there are small ridges, some ridges are ending there at a particular point, and some are meeting with each other. Some ridges dividing into two. So all these are individual characteristics, and they are very helpful in determining the individuality of the person. Okay, so before ending this presentation, I only 14 minutes only. Wanted you to present this presentation, as you don't know basics of fingerprint and uh, in detail, in-depth knowledge of fingerprints you don't have. So you might not get everything that I got in this video, but you should have an idea that fingerprints are unique to every individual and they can be identified uniquely. Right? So if you are interested in these kind of things, in and in-depth knowledge of the forensic science. Forensic science basically is not only the knowledge of fingerprints, but it has different, I would say, different sections also. There is a chemical section, there is a toxicology, there is forensic, digital forensic is there. Likewise, there are different sections of forensic science. If you are interested in that, if you are not interested in fingerprint, then you might be interested in any other areas of forensic science. Forensic psychology is also there. Then lie detection and all these things are there. Document examination is also there. So this was there for today, and there are many good colleges around the country that offers forensic science. Through Aifset, you can take admission as about the test. Ma'am can tell you in detail. So thank you from my side, and thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your valuable insights. There is one girl in our audience, Supriyo Das. She's asking what is delta. So please explain it in few words, and then we will close the session.
Okay, delta is basically in fingerprints we have different trees. I will try to explain it the simplest possible way. Data is basically when there are two ridges, for example. I'm drawing here. Okay. I'm not sure if it's white color, if it is visible or not. So when two ridges are there, let's suppose there are two ridges. These ridges are meeting it like that, right? So they will form a triangular shape in between them. So that triangular shape there is known as delta. When you see your fingerprint, you put your fingerprint on a paper, and then you will try to find out some triangular shape that will be the delta.
Okay, thank you, sir. Supriyo, I think your answer is clear now. And thank you, sir. Uh, I hope the audience has enjoyed the session and will be valuable for the choosing the uh, field of forensic science, right? So thank you so much, and thank you, audience. Very soon we will be back with the next FSET Live Fest. So stay connected. Thank you so much, everyone.